Well, hi. I thought that I would take an opportunity to update you. It has been months since I updated my hip journey, and it has been a journey, let me tell you. I have literally pages of notes for this video, and I'm not going to try to read them. However, for the essence of time, I might resort to that. So I kind of laid it out here in what I wanted to say, and let's dive in, okay? All right, so my PICC line was removed in October, and let's see, since that time, well, even when the PICC line was in, I met with the prosthetist. There's prosthetists that work closely with the surgeon that I have, and they're two wonderful gentlemen. I got to know them over the course of about a year and a half, and that's because I met with them prior to even deciding to move forward with the procedure. Actually, I met with them, I believe, twice, if not 3 times, before deciding to move forward. I really felt like I had done a lot of research, a lot of homework in meeting with medical professionals with a decision to move forward with my leg. I do not regret it for 1 minute. I am not in pain. I have phantom pain, but that's nothing compared to the pain I was in. I do not take any pain medication other than phantom pain medicine, but it's not a narcotic. It's nothing that is, a substance that is frowned upon in the medical community anymore. And yeah, I have no pain. I can sit the way that I envisioned being able to sit up. There's a few little glitches there with that, which I'll explain in another video. But yeah, I wouldn't regret it. If I never walk without crutches a day in my life, I'm still better off. Still better off. Although I'm going to walk with a prosthetic leg. Actually, I already am, which is yet another video. But in this one, I wanted to explain. Okay. I already said that I met with the prosthetists. There's 2 of them that I met with. I'm going to keep their names off the video. I'm trying to be professionally courteous. As a athletic trainer, I practiced medicine for 20 years, over 20 years. And it's not, medicine is a practice. Like, it is not exact. So we all want to think it is. It's not. It is not. You have to be proactive as a patient. You have to be informed. You have to do your due diligence and research. You have to ask a lot of questions, of which I felt like I did. Unfortunately, my case is the first one in the United States, and it looks as though maybe in the world, the way that it's done specifically. There are other people that have implanted metal rods that stick out of their leg. That's called osseointegration. There are plenty of people that have that. However, the way that mine is done, and the level, meaning how high up on my leg it is the first. So with that, you have new developments in medicine, and not all questions can be answered because it's new. However, I thought that I had met with a prosthetist and the surgeon many times. I thought that they would come together to discuss and plan not only the procedure. My surgeon had the procedure plan. I've actually looked at the paperwork, and the specific plans. It's kind of like a blueprint for building a house. This is a blueprint for the surgical procedure. How long everything's going to be, millimeters, the diameter of the rod. I mean, it was all laid out. I saw it. Unfortunately, that information wasn't shared, and the prosthetist and the surgeon didn't come together before the surgery to kind of work out maybe any kinks, which there are. There's definitely some kinks, but nothing that can't be overcome. So let's see. I had no idea, with that in mind, I had no idea that I needed to or should have to, as the patient, bring the surgeon and the prosthetist together to ensure that there was a plan that was comprehensive. When I met with the prosthetists, I found out that when I met with them, which was in September, which would have been like 6 weeks after my procedure, and when I met with them, that first meeting, there was a comment made that we will have to figure this out. And I said, what exactly do you mean you have to figure this out? I mean, didn't you already talk to Dr. Rosbrook? Did you not already plan this out ahead of time? No, that's the answer. No, there was no plan for the prosthetic piece before I had the procedure. I had the procedure and then here I am, figure it out. That is not a good place to be in. And I certainly did not expect that to be the case with the Hospital for Special Surgery and anybody that they do work with. The Hospital for Special Surgery is the #1 orthopedic hospital. It's the #1 orthopedic hospital. At least they have those ratings, and they have those accolades. And they work. My surgeon is phenomenal. He does fantastic work. I love him. I love his work. I have nothing negative to say about that. But there is a divide, or there is a missing piece between the surgeries and if you need prosthetic care. Like, that whole thing is, there's just there needs to be some planning for everybody. I don't think it should be have the procedure and figure it out afterwards. But anyway, let's see. That was my first page. I wasn't worried after the first one. I was just so surprised that there had been no plan. I wasn't worried at that point in dealing with a prosthetic leg, but I grew worrisome. The second meeting, I found out that there needed to be a custom metal bracket made in my second meeting with the prosthetist. And they had no resources with which to have a custom bracket made. So being from Delaware and having resources of metal manufacturers, I actually know a handful of them. I volunteered to take the one metal bracket that they had that needed to be custom and bring it home to Delaware to have one made. And so that's what happened. They didn't have the resource to find, they didn't have any contacts. They don't have a metal manufacturer. They themselves can't manufacture the piece of metal that they needed, or so they thought they needed for my prosthetic leg. So I came home and had a piece manufactured, and I took the fitting back, and I was sadly disappointed with the setup that they were aiming for. The top metal bracket that they have made in Delaware would have sat 4 to 5 inches in front of my body. So if you were to stand up and like look down toward your toes, the metal bracket would probably look as though it was at the same level at your toes. I mean, it sat away. If this was my front of my body, it sat away 4 or 5 inches. Okay, you might think that's really not a big deal, but it is. You would never wear a pair of pants with an actual fabric leg. You'd have to cut all your pants off. And that doesn't work for all applications in life, to cut your pant leg off. I was sadly disappointed. That's how they wanted to solve the problem with getting a leg attached to my implant. I can't even begin to tell you how disappointed I probably shouldn't even go there. And so when I brought up that I'd have to cut all my pant legs off, and I wasn't sure what kind of clothing outside of cutting my pants off that I'd be able to wear. I mean, shorts would have to be, behind the piece of metal that they were trying to use. Here, I'll show you a picture of what it looked like. Okay, so the comment or the solution to this piece of metal sticking off and my questioning about what the heck I was going to wear, I'm going to read it. Just wear a blousey skirt. You don't really wear skirts. I mean, once in a while I'll wear a dress or something. Church, funeral. But on the daily, wear a blousey skirt. I said, I don't think that wearing a blousey skirt is applicable when I climb in a deer stand to go hunting. Nor do I think it's applicable to help at the farm market that my brother runs. It's just not applicable. Jeans and boots and hunting, we wear hunting apparel, and in freezing temperatures to have a leg cut off in my hunting pants, not so good. All right, I won't belabor that. So at that point I was very, very concerned. So I knew that if it was going to be differently done, I was going to have to solve it. I mean, I was going to have to talk to the metal manufacturer, and we were going to literally sit down with a piece of graph paper and try and come up with another design of a metal bracket that would attach the implant to a prosthetic leg. I did a lot of research in looking at videos of a gentleman who had similar, but not the same, osseous integration, and I studied it, and there's videos and pictures, and I put things in slow motion and frame by frame by frame, and devise a different piece of metal. And it worked. We designed a piece of metal, I attached it to the leg, was able to walk with the leg, with a metal bracket that we made, but was having some pain at different points of the walking process. And so I grew worrisome again. What if no leg is going to work? What if no matter how we do the metal bracket, it's going to put too much torsion, too much shear force through the implant, meaning stressing the implant too much in different ways? How do we know what's going to work and what's not going to work? I certainly didn't want to take responsibility as the patient in saying that I made this metal bracket that's not approved by anyone, no FDA, not a medical device that is approved, and yet I have this implant and I'm gonna have, $100,000 leg, and the metal bracket may cause the implant to fail or may cause some component in the leg to fail. Okay, that's not a good place to be. So how do we solve this problem? I don't know. I decided to contact some friends of mine who are amputees and ask them if they had any resources for any other prosthetists. I knew that they did, and so I just questioned them about it, and so I reached out to these two gentlemen who actually, both of these amputees mentioned these two people. Ironically, not ironically at all. God was definitely involved in all of that. That I asked, the first amputee, and she was able to give me these two gentlemen's names, and then I talked to another amputee, and he gave me one of the two names. Ironically, they work. These two people work in the same clinic, and they are from Maryland, which this clinic is about 2 hours from my house. But before we get to that part, I reached out to them via email, and we communicated back and forth through a few emails, and then one of the prosthetists called, and we discussed my case, and we discussed some of the challenges that it presented, and then would they be able to, or would they be willing to see me? That's a common thing in medicine. Once you start with a medical professional, there are very few other medical professionals that want to take you on as a patient. And that is a real shame. It's just a real shame that there is, I don't know if it's fear. I don't know if it is, not wanting to take on someone else's problem. I don't really know what it is, but the fact that you have a patient that needs assistance and the medical professional or professionals they're with are not getting it done, and you try to get a second set of eyes after things have already begun, it's difficult in many cases. But the Lord worked in some crazy ways. I can say, well, not crazy. I mean, He blessed me, and He blessed me by this. Let me do say that in the time frame that I made the piece of metal that worked for my leg, that I could actually walk with this leg with crutches. From that time frame until I had the phone conference with the prosthetist, I found out that my insurance company was willing to pay 60% of the cost of the leg. The leg, from the first prosthetist, the way they, had it set up, the joints that they were using, was $109,000. And the insurance company, though they approved the prosthetic leg, were only going to pay 60% of it. Okay. So anyway, I had the phone conference with the second set of prosthetists, and part of that was I had to come for a consultation. They would not make any recommendations over the phone or via email. I needed to come in person to have a consultation. So I brought the metal bracket and the test leg that I had from the first set of prosthetists from New York. I had that, and I brought it with me to Maryland. It's about 2 hours away from my home, I think I might have said. And after that meeting, I knew that I had a decision to make. Let me say this. It's not in my notes, but it is something that I need to say. So I had set up this meeting with a prosthetist on a, let me think now. It was on a Friday for the following Wednesday. On Sunday, one of my closest friends, and she's like a big brother, texted me and said, turn on the CBS News. I said, I'm in church. You got to look it up as soon as you get home, he said. So I did. As soon as I got home, changed my clothes, threw in some wash, and then went to sit to find this clip from CBS. I had no idea what in the world was so urgent or what he was, so excited about. Lo and behold, it was a news article on Ukrainian soldiers being in the United States, receiving prosthetic care from a clinic in Maryland. Well, I had been talking with the prosthetists that are featured in this news article. The one gentleman is the owner of the clinic, and I was speaking with him and his partner, and I see the clip and I'm just like, he's never gonna believe this. And I call him and I said, you are never ever gonna believe this. And he knew the challenges that I was facing with my previous prosthetist and that setup of a leg, and I said, I have a meeting scheduled with them on Wednesday. I need to find out what further information. I need to see if they have further insight. But I have a scheduled appointment with them on Wednesday. And so after I met with them, I knew I had a decision to make, and it really honestly was not a bad one. It wasn't really a difficult one. While I was at the clinic, they obviously, did some evaluation of me, but I asked them a couple of questions about once I got my leg, which is a part that I left out earlier in the video, about once I got my leg, what would the rehab look like? What would it look like to learn to walk with my leg? Because the previous prosthetist, let the cat out of the bag there, obviously I made a decision to change prosthetists. Anyway, the one prosthetist said from the previous group, I asked the same question, and he said, you just kind of wing it. You can't overthink it. So you get the leg and you just wing it. You just go for it. You don't overthink it. That's what one of the two prosthetists from the first set said to me when I asked about how to learn to walk with a prosthetic leg. I haven't walked in 14 years, so even my good leg doesn't really know what to do, because I haven't walked like normal. I've been crutching with 2 crutches, and my left leg has just been kind of going through at not a normal, like your hip doesn't bend as much, your knee doesn't bend as much. I mean, there's a lot of retraining to be done. The first group was wing it. The second group was, you'll have months of adjustments, gait training. We'll put you on, in a harness and have you on a treadmill, so that you can walk without your crutches. You'll walk through parallel bars. We'll have you moving up and down a ramp and going up steps. You'll have months of gait training and adjustments to your prosthetic. Completely 100% different than the first group. So I came back home after that meeting and wrote an email to the prosthetists that I had, and they had been asking me about returning the test leg. It was on loan, and they, were growing worrisome about how long I had it, and I had it probably about 3 weeks. And so anyway, I wrote them an email saying that I had decided to move in a different direction with my prosthetic care, and that I could return the leg the following week if if they had time to see me or what have you. And so the response was they didn't need to necessarily see me, but they needed to evaluate the leg to make sure there wasn't any damage or anything done to the test leg while it was in my care. And so anyway, I returned the test leg. It was a little bit awkward. I felt really bad because they are very nice people. They just were not a fit for my case. Yeah, they just weren't a fit. So the next video, I intend to catch you up to speed on where I am presently with my prosthetic care. It's not a challenging one. It's very uplifting. I think you'll look forward to that one. I know I'm anxious to share it with you. So until the next time, have a blessed day.